Well,
the little boy and do
Okay, wait a minute. Let me pause it now. Just
you
to
know what I
make
mean?
sure
Like
it's
it's a lot
working.
of. I mean,
Okay, hold
no, but you from before. I was gonna say that I knew she would have given me some info. She gave me some. Did you check your emails? So you saw the two for the DA. They're just and then what we do is decide that we okay. I don't want to do that without the committee saying.
Okay.
The strike period kind of like eased up a little bit.
I'm just getting caught up with everything. You know, once I get that, like yesterday, last week, the whole table was just, okay, now I gotta do this.
For that.
You know what I mean? So I'm chipping away at that. We have our rollovers that I'm dealing with bond council. So we got the first set of funding that's coming in, that came in today. Tomorrow I have to pay last year.
Right.
So that's the-
No, that's all we could afford.
Yeah. So make sure everything is something.
So, on that other, I was really, I don't wanna, I don't wanna say this in here, like, I don't like.
By the end of the month.
Is this a short-term loan?
Yeah, it's school year.
It's just for the year. That's the whole
Yeah, the
year.
rollover, yeah.
Wait, now, did not only that.
I think, you know.
But not only that.
As good as it can be,
And
you know,
then, I mean, I think maybe it was too much to come out of that or something.
I guess it went up a quarter.
yes. I'll show you $80.
But you got a new name tag?
No, she got to open one.
Got
Long-term money, you should have
It might have been.
really a good amount to go for long-term money, plus your professional fees.
Because there was a guy who
Once you go to permanent bond council,
He was the chief of
financial advisors are significant.
Is that it? Is that it? Yeah. I don't care that we, you know, I'm
So
just,
that could be.
I was just trying to make sure I was doing it decent.
But I feel like we should do it too, because you keep talking about more rate.
Yeah, because
They're gonna have to show the inflation.
Yeah, that's why it's so mad.
5, 6.
which is the rates. Yeah.
He probably would maybe do that with this one too, but I'm just, at least they're looking at the knowledge. And then you wonder, like, she couldn't have been through and become aware.
So, yeah, now you're the next, right?
You know what, I wanted to ask you something, you guys something.
I don't.
Do you have, so for this, because I filed my taxes and filed taxes part late yesterday. They were like, well, you know, yeah, so, they're like, well, you gotta get in this, claim this and that, so they were like, for this. I didn't get, are we talking? Is it open? Oh. Yeah, I see that, you know, I was talking, I was like, you know,
Okay, we can go ahead and get started. We have a quorum.
We do.
All right. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, P.L. 1975, notice of this meeting was posted on the Borough of Pennsboro Municipal Bulletin Board, designed for that purpose. Notice was also posted on the Borough of Pennsboro website at www.pennsboro-nj.org and was emailed to the official newspaper as provided by resolution. Additionally, this April 19th, 2022 work session meeting is being held in person in the courtroom of Borough Hall, 1 State Street, Pennsboro, New Jersey. This meeting is also being held via Zoom online meeting platform. All right, if everyone could stand for the pledge. Place your right hand over your heart and say the pledge with me. I
pledge
allegiance to
the United States
the States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
for
one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Andy, Madam Clerk, can you say the invocation, please?
Sure.
Excuse me, Mayor. Once Sharon muted hers, now we can't hear anything.
How about now? Okay.
They'll never get near him, 'cause his lips move.
Okay. When and if you are invited to the microphone to speak, state your name and address. You are allotted 3 minutes for comment. Please respect the time for other persons and end your speech within the 3 minutes allowed. If it is your intention to ask a question of council, you will be permitted to ask a maximum of 2 questions. Your questions are to be clearly stated, and after the questions are asked, you are to take your seat. The council president will determine, or the chair will determine if the question can be answered in by whom. Finally, please understand that there will be no personal attacks or name calling. If you do so, your time will immediately be cut short and you may be asked to leave. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Councilman Carter.
Here.
Council President Martin.
Here.
Councilwoman Mincy.
Here.
Councilman Rambo.
Here.
I could hear him barely, but I had to turn my mic down. Okay, sorry. Councilwoman Scarpese.
Here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Oh, Councilwoman Worley. I apologize. I apologize, Councilwoman Worley. Thank you.
We acknowledge your presence. All right. First item on the agenda is the budget. And we will start with a public hearing. CFO, sir, could you explain the purpose of the public hearing?
So we have the public hearing on the introduced 2022 municipal budget. It was a hard budget process with input from mayor and council, business administrator, a monitor, taking into effect what council went into the budget. We had the appropriate money for floater, contingent for unexpected costs, community leave, part-time enabling licensed clerk, the economic development planner. And I did a detailed analysis of all the line items, and we did adjustments for recurring transfers, especially for utilities. So we corrected that in this year's budget. Also adjustments for statutory billings, pension billings, so forth. So we can only anticipate 85% of last year's transitional aid. Last year we received $555,000. We only can anticipate 85% of that. So with the introduced budget and 85% of the transitional aid, we're introducing at a 13.5 cent increase on the average assessed house, which is $112.07 per year. We requested with the application, transitional aid application. I want to thank everybody for the input which was submitted to the state. We're anticipating or requesting $550,000, the same amount we received last year. If we receive the full $550,000, the introduced budget will be a 6.4 cent increase. On an average assessed house, that's $50.55 per year, or $4.21 per month. And you can't really go lower than that as an increase, because transitional aid is not going to fund any lower tax increase. Their basic minimum is a $55 increase. So if you want to lower it, then the municipality would have to use additional surplus, which you really don't want to use, because you have to look at next year's budget. You don't want to go down, okay, now, we're asking for $550, we want to try to get it down to 3 cents. Well, then if you look at next year's budget, if you don't have the same things that happen, that we have really good collection rate this year, that helps surplus, you might look at a 12-cent increase. So you always have to be aware of next year's budget. So that's what we're asking. This is also in review with the monitor. So the monitor looked over spreadsheets, gave us suggestions, gave the council suggestions. He is hopeful that we will get the same amount as we see last year. So we have to do is have a public hearing on the budget for the public, and then close the public hearing, and then we'll have to table it because we have to wait for the transition.
Before I open to the public, question, the surplus that we have,
Yes.
is it $709,000?
Okay, let me get that to you. Our fund balance in 2020 was $699,000, which was a surplus. I'm just going to use rough figures, $699,000 even. 2021, $839,000. So you can see the increase in surplus, and a lot of that was due to our collection rate increase almost 3%. For that. Our collection rate from 2020 was 86.62%. 2021 is 89.84%. So we're at 3.21% increase. Also, we didn't expend as much as we budgeted. So in 2 years, every 2 years, that laps into your surplus. To give you an example, there were some years that our collection rate was so bad that we had to use a 3-year average. So that avoided a spike, an increase. So you would get the low rate, average out with the prior 2 years tax rate, and that would kind of help even out that decrease. So, with the plan that the monitor set out, and council following the plan, looking over the budget, this is a really good year. I mean, I really didn't have to stress. I can't remember the last time I really didn't have to. When everything was coming in, when I was looking at the race, I'm like, I think we're doing pretty good. Like the correction, that's my biggest thing. That's a bulk of money, except for your aid from the state. But once that, you're looking at a 2% increase. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good. And then once we started doing the financial statements with the auditor, I mean, it was a great.
Wasn't our payroll lower this year too?
Yeah, pay was lower. Pay was lower than what we budgeted. And that's one thing, like when we do the budget, I like to be conservative because a lot of things happen anyway. So you can't do a zero-based budgeting. Like you can't go, okay, this is actually going to be a line item. And an example, like you said, the police department, you have to budget as full staffing because that's what the borough wants, full staffing. So you budget as full staffing, and then we had so many, so many turnovers that really helped the budget process because you're not paying that salary that was budgeted, right? And you're not paying the other benefits as the health benefits. Yeah, your breakage. But for this year's budget, as you know, I did the same thing. You have to budget for the full staffing. Because you don't want to be under budgeted.
I'm thinking this is the first year that I remember that we haven't transferred money into the police department.
Yes. Yes.
We're always
Yes, salary
looking
wages.
for money.
Yes. for
Looking for
salary
money
wages.
to fund the police department, like in the third, fourth quarter.
Yes, yeah. Because overtime is so, I remember it was years of overtime, you're talking about $400,000 in overtime, $250 in overtime, so you have to transfer. But we did,
That's a pat on the back.
yeah, and what we did transfer that we was for items that at the time, the police department really needed, and some major equipment broke down, so at least we had the money and other line items that we were able to do that.
Did you see anything in, maybe in housing and things like that, that we saved money because we weren't fully staffed?
Well, it's the same thing with the housing. So you got the police department line item, the housing line item, because we budgeted for more staffing. And plus, some of the staffing wasn't working the hours that were budgeted. So we didn't have a great material also.
Anything else?
Some of the OEs, some of the OEs. Like basically a lot of the OEs had someone in it. And like I said, we can't do zero budget because you do, you put in what you want, but you have to have money for changes. So you don't know what's going to happen. So if you zero budget, you can't do a transfer, then you have an over expenditure. So if you have a 25,000 over expenditure because we didn't have enough money to transfer, next year budget with 25,000 in the hole because you have to raise that $25,000. So it's all, when I do analysis, I look, okay, what do we need the money in? Okay, we talked about the recurring charges. That's something we have to definitely adjust. It's recurring charges. But then you look at the history of all the line items and if you don't have to touch them, you don't touch them. We need them flat rate from prior years. So some of these line items have been a flat rate for the last 4 or 5 years.
I'm putting a library class now for library.
Okay.
And we're already a couple months in, but
Yes.
I like to see my budget for the year.
So.
But I'd like to commend Mayor and Council and following the plan from the state. You follow the plan, we have a great monitor. You follow the plan, you take the advice of the monitor, and you get rewarded. And that's what comes in as well rewarded. So it's great by working together and having this position. And it's great for me because I wasn't stressed out this year. So I'm being a little bit selfish.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll open it for public comment. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments regarding the budget?
Debbie Ashburn, 47 State Street. So what does the surplus mean?
The surplus is you have an excess. Surplus, say, for instance, how you can generate surplus, say the tax conversion. You only can statutory user rate that you can say, for instance, 2020, our tax collection rate was 86.62%. But when you do the calculation, you never anticipate the 86.62% because you don't know how the next year rates will do. So you'll always do a less of a calculation. I can't think what else to hand what we use, but use a lesser amount. Okay. So I'm just saying for us.
So where does the surplus go
The surplus goes to help support the budget
for next year?
for the next year. So since we had additional surplus, we was able to use some of that surplus to support this budget and keep the tax rate down. So you never want to use all your surplus. Of course, that helps the next year's budget, and that helps the next
Does
year's
it go
budget.
into savings account? How where does it go?
No, it's going to cover, it goes in the current fund, which is a general account. It just goes in one account, that stays in there.
Well,
Say-
because I'm just wondering, I keep asking for an ambulance to be chassis. And I hear this $700,000 surplus, and I don't see a plan to do anything about that second ambulance because I already have almost 30,000 miles on that ambulance in 2 years.
See, that's something that can be done through the capital account.
Okay.
That's a capital item that you can do. And I think we had one done. Have we had one done like many years ago? I'm trying to think.
Maybe, but like the one we have, the new ambulance was a grant.
Right.
Grant, and by luck, I don't even know how, they said, yes, we got that. So,
And we had a matching portion that we came out.
We had a 5% match. yes, and we had to buy some equipment because the other ambulance have been out of service for so long. We don't need to do that this time. And we can reuse our own chassis that we have. It's still in good shape. So the last thing, I think it was $147,000 to re-chassis. We already have all of our equipment that we basically need. I just need some new wheels under that thing because it's so old. It has, almost 300,000 miles on it, which is unheard of in an ambulance. It's still running.
And that would be a capital project, which we can do for, mayor and council, we look over, the town council would do an ordinance and do finance out over 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a plan because I'm afraid to take it out. It still runs.
What was
But,
the amount again?
What is it?
What was the amount again?
Well, the last quote I had was $147,000. And that's using our existing chassis, but replacing all the lights and everything on it. So it kind of comes back from the brand new. Oh, the chassis, of course, is brand new.
What you want to do is, you don't want to go with that 100, if mayor and council procedures, you never want to go at the base amount.
Right.
We like to have one of the digits, because you never know what's going to happen.
You never know, you might find a little rust or something
Yeah.
somewhere, but. So, that's all I was just wondering, because I kept hearing that 700,000, like, where is it going?
Yeah, we can definitely discuss that.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we talk to Triad too, to see if there's anything available for?
Well, I know, when I started that project last time, FEMA doesn't do re-chassis, they only do brand new. So I don't know what the rules are with Triad because they only help the fire department. So,
We can definitely have
Maybe we need to
conversation.
change that.
I guess, I did steal some of Adam's information, I didn't that, but they don't really, I never really got that interest that, so that's why I kind of jumped the other way, so. I could go for another FEMA grant, I just don't know, and there's an application fee, like, at that time it was $3,000, and we paid half, the borough paid half, but, I don't know, I just want to see if there's.
I have another call with Triad because I talked to her the other day and we were talking about different things that, all the grants that are out there. So I can definitely talk to
I would
her.
save $100,000 by doing it that way,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll keep you posted, okay?
Okay.
Anyone else from the public have any questions or comments about the budget? Okay. All right, public session is closed. May I have a motion to table the budget?
Motion.
Who's that? Councilwoman Mincy, make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Worley. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Yes. Councilman Carter? Council President Martin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy?
Yes.
Councilman Rambo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley?
Yes.
All affirm, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. All right, next item on the agenda, introduction and first reading of ordinances. This is ordinance number 2022-7. This is an ordinance amending chapter 103-1 of the Borough Code, providing for the temporary appointment of appointed personnel. May I have a motion to adopt by title only?
This needs a sponsor.
There was a sponsor.
It doesn't.
Motion to adopt by title only.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Council President
I have
Martin.
a question.
Yes.
When I read this, it said the heads, the department heads. Is this not for? So it wouldn't be for employees?
Right, it's not for employees. It's for appointed personnel, whatever your department heads are. So for example, your public safety, your CFO, those individuals.
I thought they were hired in my opinion.
They are with the advice and consent of council. The police and regulators. But it's for the individuals who are going to be heading up those particular departments who oversee those. And the general thought is that when you have a department that has a head, either through attrition, sickness, retirement, resignation, or whatever, those persons go down. You've got to have someone to be able to go in for a period of time. And what it is, it's a mayoral appointment, but it's with council's consent. It's a regular advising consent. So,
Answer your question.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call vote, please?
Yes. Councilman Carter?
Yes.
Council President Martin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy?
Yes.
Councilman Rambo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley? 6 affirm, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Moving to new business.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
Is it possible that we could move the new business resolution to the end of the meeting, because I think we probably will need to also put on an executive session, since it is a resolution authorizing settlement. There probably should be some explanation to the council regarding certain facts for this. So I'm going to ask that we can move that till after the items to consideration discussion.
Okay.
If all possible, Mr. Young will be coming to speak about that as well.
Okay.
That's what I want.
And I'll bring it back.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move that to the end of the items for consideration. So next, items for consideration and discussion. First, we have personnel policy and procedure manual.
I did provide a copy. I guess I provided a copy to Mr. Brown early on. Provided a copy to the council, which the council I think had, I believe, in late February or early March. I did have a chance to have input from one of the council members. That was Councilwoman Worley, brought up some points, and we had discussion. Unfortunately, I think I had to go, and our discussion ended up getting cut off somewhat. But this is the personnel policy and procedure manual, not to be confused necessarily with the employee manual, because the employee manual draws from the personnel policy and procedure manual. So it goes hand in hand. But we can have a discussion on any items on this that you'd like to bring up. Be happy to kind of see if we can work through some of it.
What date was it?
I think I sent it to everyone for 7. One thing I did want to bring, I know there was some discussion recently about working from home. And there were some concerns about working from home with some of these things. There is a working from home section in this document. That's basically the new frontier. It was the new frontier even before COVID. With the advent of COVID, it became kind of the norm for people to be able to work from home. But most people really didn't have a policy per se. So if you have a copy of your manual, normally you do have it. But if you have a copy of it, I believe it's page 24 of the manual. It's called flexible work policy. A lot of people have March 2nd, for those of you who have confused. A lot of people call these things different titles. We call it a flexible work arrangement policy. And what it does is it covers remote work, telecommuting, and flexible work arrangements. And what it does is it puts into effect the ability to make these policies with the business administrator. And it sets forth how those things will be determined. The business administrator would have to make a specific finding and documentation of how the performance will be assigned and measured, what the work hours will be, how the arrangement will maintain expectations related to a high level of service and communication, what methods for adequate communication during specific hours will be, and making clear the employee has to be available to report to the worksite if necessary, regardless of whatever policies have been set into effect. It requires that the employee is always accessible by phone, computer, and or email, however it's decided during designated work hours, and that the employee is required to participate in meetings via whatever method and medium is set.
They said it was in.
I'm sorry,
They said it was in.
March 2nd.
Are there any questions? Are you guys still looking for it?
Yeah, we're still.
I just think that when it comes to,
Do you want?
I have a
no, I have my copy.
You have your copy?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Anybody else? Want a copy?
I have a draft and obviously it's not the same.
Yeah, it is, because you've not adopted it.
24, that's what he was saying, so I must have something else.
You would have gotten that weeks, months
Mr.
ago.
Rivera is going to make a copy for.
Yeah.
He was putting in everybody's box months ago.
Yeah, when it first came out, because
Okay.
this has been added to the agenda like
So
several
maybe
times.
that's-
It's going to take him a while. It's 50 pages.
Yeah, you probably could just print out
Okay.
one page.
All right, so while he's making copies, we'll move to the next item, okay?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Obviously, a lot of this is,
More than that.
well, and what was the source of that?
It's gleaned from, I think, a number of different policies that I've worked on over the years. I kind of adapted it to different situations. The policies that I've worked with in the past have been approved by different JIPs across the state. And as the years go by and as things develop in either case law or policy, personnel policies, we tend to add those different things. So in this one, you'll see that there's a couple things that don't appear in a number of other different policies. For example, there's a diversity and inclusiveness policy, which is a new thing that most municipalities are starting to be involved with. I think that the JIP has that there.
So the newest one was the, for the towns.
No.
Because that has been included for JIF. That's how you were to deal with that in the workplace.
Yeah, that actually does, and you're entirely right, that actually does have to be.
That was one of the new things, that and, what was it, domestic violence? or
Yeah, we have a
violence
whole
for
expanded,
minors,
Yeah.
something like that they wanted added.
we have a whole expanded domestic violence section. As to the cannabis,
They had some samples that you could
it gets
use.
treated the same as any other medicinal. Just because there's a 2-ounce allowance for cannabis by statute does not allow for it in the workplace, just like alcohol.
Yeah, it's legal.
You can't go to a bottle of alcohol and drink some EJ while you're sitting there trying to do work. Or an E in there, right? Sorry, I'm telling on myself here, excuse me.
Brandy.
See, it's just something.
Brandy, everybody,
It's something. So.
But I knew that was one thing that they wanted in the policy. And you said,
Well, I'll take a look at that.
that you included the expanded domestic violence.
Yes.
It wasn't it violence against minors or something like that too? Something that
I
minors.
didn't, the statute didn't change in this minor, so I don't know. We have a whole section like that. Last update that I think is in there. So whatever was in there, whatever their last update was in December of last year, definitely crystallizes and began to send this out. Unfortunately, Councilwoman Worley is not here at the first sent it out, so you didn't have the benefit of the drafts and everything.
When it comes to, me and Mr. Tarver, we did have a conversation about the policy and procedure. I had a lot of questions, things I didn't particularly understand. And just thinking about the drug test. I think that should be a random drug test. Because we don't know who does what. I think that should be random. And if you go to page 8, you guys get your manual, you read, you see, that was one of the things that I think should be implemented. Mr. Tarver was not in total agreement with that.
That was gonna ask.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, no.
I think
Were you
it's saying.
I mean, not random. You like make me guilty when I came up.
You lean forward like you're gonna say something like that.
And does that apply to, so if you were to do random drug tests, does that apply to? the
Well,
police department?
here's the problem. In order to do random drug tests, you have to have at least some modicum of an indicia that shows that there's a need to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's subject to abuse, and anyone making charge that this is a retaliatory or otherwise move.
Is that everywhere?
It's not everywhere, but in the governmental situation, the problem is, part of the problem is government is not like private industry. And so you've got to be very careful, I think, when you put policies into place. Who determines what the randomness is? Who determines the scenarios for that? Who determines how that's going to be conducted in a random fashion? All those things come into play as to whether or not you're going to actually do that. And they open up a whole can of worms in the workplace. Particularly, you always have to remember that government carries with it not only a commercial and corporate structure, but also a political structure. And that is a cause in many cases for a lot of problems. So it's more of a headache and hassle than it's worth. And again, if you see people who are exhibiting signs of being under the influence, yeah, those people should be tested. But otherwise, I would be hard pressed to think of a reason why you would just want to, create the random.
Some places use absenteeism, tardiness, things like that too, as especially around holidays and things like that. I'm going to make a suggestion that we use from the school board, that we did a review of our records. And what we did is we broke it down into sections instead of trying to attack this as a whole. Maybe either assign different council people different sections, or do a work session on a particular section each time instead of the whole thing.
Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, you can.
My only concern is that the personnel this personnel policy and procedure manual was to be updated, as Mr. Tarver initiated it last year. To be this far in the game when it comes to Jeff, thinking that we've already updated our policy creates another issue.
So maybe we can, that's it, and then do
And you can
a
amend.
review
You can always amend.
at each work session.
So review sections. at each work session.
You can always amend.
Mhm,
But that's a good point, Sharon.
mhm.
And I think it was supposed to be done, if I'm right, June is 2 years, so it's supposed to be done 18 months.
It's every 2 years, I think.
November.
Yeah.
That was from that class. that
Mhm.
I
Oh,
was
okay.
supposed to take, they said it.
Oh, okay.
So in case y'all haven't taken that class. So we are, but
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the personnel policy and procedure manual? Okay.
Do we want to pass it now as is?
I think we would probably wait until the next
Council
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, I would probably not. If we had moved the ordinance forward and advertised it, we could have done, but we didn't do that. you know, we kind of contemplated that we'd have a chance to talk about it today and figure out what it is. And then the next meeting, we'll put it on for the ordinance and we can move forward with that. In the meantime, if we have anything to discuss in between, feel free to give me a call.
Everyone, did you hear that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, was I talking low again?
I don't say nothing. But is it okay if at this point that Mr. Tarver, you can answer this for me. Is it okay that we go ahead and go through what you and I discussed concerning policy and procedures?
You mean to talk about with
Right,
everyone?
yeah, would you say
Absolutely.
you okay with that?
This is work session, whatever you to talk about.
Since you guys already have your policy, can you turn to page 12? And this is with the employee complaint policy. And it says employees who observe action, they believe to continue. Oh, you guys have that? Page 12?
I don't think they have it as a copy because mine goes to 11 to 13. 11 to 13.
I have 12.
I got 12.
Okay. That man did it. That's okay. I'll open it up. It's not a big deal.
What's
I
the
have it.
section?
Page 12.
Complaint.
Okay, I got it.
I personally believe you guys can, I just want your input on this. And I did speak to talk about this. I think that should be outside counsel. I don't think when it comes to an employee, because let's just say they had a problem with Steve. They might not come to you. They need to be able to go to somebody to talk to. You know what I mean? Outside of you. Or if they had a problem with the VA, there should be an outside person that they talk to. Maybe they don't trust you. They're not comfortable with none of us. I suggested JIF because they are our insurance company, you know, and Mr. Tarver indicated JIF would not, they're not part of this. They wouldn't.
Yeah, let me kind of, what I understood you to be talking about was if an employee has a complaint about their supervisor,
Yes.
that they should not necessarily have to go to the supervisor. Well, this doesn't require them to go to their supervisor. It requires them to go to the head administrator of the borough, which is the borough attorney. Should they feel that the borough attorney is the person that they do not want to go to, it gives the alternative, I'm sorry, the business administrator, should they feel that that person is not the person they want to go to, either because there is a conflict of sorts, and it can't just be a situation where I don't want to go to this person because I don't like that. That's why we have a chain of command of designation. We don't allow people just to say, well, I'm going to pick and choose the person that I believe might be more favorable to my, well, I mean, I haven't gotten to the perpetrator. That might be more favorable to my situation. However, if the business administrator is involved in the process that's making the person complain, we don't expect them to go to the business administrator because that would be, you know, going boxes in the henhouse or whatever. They then would go to the borough attorney. And the idea is twofold. Number one, it's a chain of command and following a chain of responsibility. But number two, in terms of employment law, there has to be a reporting to the individuals who are actually in the borough, so that those individuals can answer directly and take certain steps to make sure that they address the complaint properly. There is a whole host of case law that indicates that employers must follow certain steps when an employee complaint is made in order to absolve themselves of liability. And so that's one of the reasons why we do that.
Would that be an appropriate place to follow complaint too?
No, the appropriate place would be an in-house individual. You
Well, I mean, we did appoint an employee attorney. I forget who it is, you know, but I know that we did that at the beginning of the year.
yes.
No, is that attorney just for?
Well, no, I mean, I guess, look, you can use, theoretically, you could use any individual, but there would be from an employment point of view, you're creating a whole new construct of an outside individual having to then go in, figure out what the situation is.
And they come back to you anyway.
Well, yeah, and, get the other interviews and everything else like that for what may be simple complaints. You're gonna complain if someone, for example, used bad language. You're gonna call the employment attorney and say, hey, employment attorney, someone used bad language, and then you pay that person to come in and somehow do an investigation of that policy. It's cumbersome, and it probably would cause more problems, I would think, than it could possibly resolve. I mean, I think in almost every organization, the complaint process starts with internal personnel. Now, the other reason why you have to have it start with internal personnel is that you're giving a right to grievance. And in giving a right to grievance, you have to be able to allow them to progressively move forward through the grievance process. And that includes, the immediate supervisor and then movement on up.
It's kind of different because we don't have a new job.
Mhm.
What about other department heads? So using this word as example, employee in Mr. Lab's department has an issue and goes to the head of a different department. Or is that?
Well, that's outside the
No,
chain.
it wouldn't be.
Outside the
Yeah.
chain, right? So it's still internal.
And one of the things we want to make sure as you go forward is that individuals understand that,
Things
chain
are
of
private,
command is
too.
not just a military concept. It is, it is an organizational concept. In order to allow people to properly address concerns and to have concerns from the top down properly addressed, it has to flow upward so that each of those persons above them can make a determination that is quote unquote appealable to the next level if there is an issue. And the other thing is, that type of thing can also undermine supervision. If you allow people to just move outside of that chain and say, you know what, I don't like what you're doing, I'm just going to, Attorney Bill Jones on the outside.
Page 10.
10.
Yes.
Yes.
We talked about anti-sexual harassment. And where it states unwelcome sexual advances, we have Mr. Tarver talked about this, and he indicated that, because to me, it looks like they both saying the same thing. Unwelcome sexual advances regarding unwelcome sexual advances, to me, it's the exact same thing. But he said that.
Wait,
Hold on.
In the middle of the
Page
page,
10.
I
on
see
page
this,
10,
but I want.
Yeah.
Request for sexual.
and then the paragraph below that, it says regarding unwelcome sexual advances
For
for
non-employees.
non-employees. So to me, it's saying the exact same thing. But Mr. Tarver explained to me that the first one is related to employee relationship, and the second one is not employee relationship. Is
Yeah,
that
if you
still
look
correct?
above that, you see unwelcome sexual advances, request for sexual favors, and other verbal, physical. And then regarding, below that says regarding unwelcome sexual advances toward non-employees. Now, for example, let's say someone is coming in for either a vendor or a contractor, or someone's coming in just to drop off some paperwork, and someone says, well, I want to harass that person. This would apply to those persons who are non-employees.
Like customers.
Customers, vendors, et cetera.
Page 13. Step 1, step 2. Right below grievance policy. Any employee or group of employees with a grievance shall verbally communicate a grievance to the supervisor, who will discuss the matter with the borough administrator. The supervisor will communicate this decision to the employee within 2 working days. I thought that should go to the JIF as well, but he said not intentional.
What do you mean unintentional?
That's what, how your words to me was, not intentional, not, I can read my whole on the right.
It might not be what it is. It might be, too, man, I don't know.
I think that should go to JIF as well, but you said no. That shouldn't go to JIF.
No, because the JIF can't be part of our employee grievance procedure. What you're doing is you're taking out the ability, by sending it outside of the borough, you're taking out the ability of the borough to monitor and supervise itself with its own employees. You're actually undercutting the authority of any of the supervisors to resolve any grievance issues that are below, that come from any of the subordinates.
So would that be like using JIF as our human resources department?
Well, sort of, but it would probably be even I think it's even more cumbersome because JIF is not a part of our structure.
They're just
So
insurance.
you're asking someone who's not a part of our structure to resolve issues without any knowledge of the personnel situation or the circumstances that deal with the individual history of a grievance or something else like that. Or even the employment culture. So
And so I did speak to our state monitor about this stuff as well. So it's not like, you know, he's not aware of it either. So he's the one who worked to me that we should use JIF. He said, y'all pay them a lot of money. Y'all need to be using JIF for situations like that. So that's why I'm bringing JIF's name up in it so much. Other than that, I am done. Thank you, Mr. Tarver. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Well, I'm taking notes. Hold on. All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments regarding personnel?
I do. It's not, it's just, so with the grievance, if the grievance is against, so it goes to the BA. If the grievance is against the BA, are we still following that same?
you're
Chain
following the
of command
model that was
with
on the front. So
Right, where they're gonna go to the attorney. Okay.
I just
To make
want to make a comment about JIF. They want to be informed of any promotions or disciplinary procedures as we do them. If you're giving people time off or demoting them or affecting their salary or in any way, they have to be informed of issues like that. So they have a heads up in case it comes to them as a complaint or a lawsuit. So they do ask for that to go through their personnel rules. So dismissals, demotions, any docking of pay.
any
things
adverse
like
employment
that,
action. That's what-
I want to add to that. I don't know what the classes I took. What did I take, Sharon?
The elected officials.
The elected officials class. You ain't got that many left. And no, you can't cheat. You got to take the class because at the end of everybody's speech, they're going to give you a code to make sure you're listening. Okay, just to let you know. And one of the things they talked about was in there was why we settle with the cases. So they explained to you why some of the cases they settle. And some of the reasons they settle if we don't have proper documentation, it said, and stuff like that, because they'll say, well, what they settle that for? Well, sometimes it costs more to pay than it does to settle. So with stuff like this, it was like 8 things that guy said. I wrote them down somewhere. I was stuck in the car. I couldn't, that's why I know I couldn't cheat. I had to sit there and listen. But it was 8 things that they were saying why we settled. And I think I said I was going to go back and look at it because it was important for everybody to know the things that we don't want to do to put us in that predicament to even get there. So I think if everybody knew what it was, that would help us understand how this thing worked. But you don't have that many classes left. I think it's only about 2 left. I know there's another Wednesday and a Thursday, but it's an hour and a half. And trust me, if you're gonna get credit for it, you gotta stay to the end, because I almost lost it. I went in Home Depot and I'm talking to the lady that went out. I said to her, I'll be right back. I ran out and put myself back on because I was like 10 minutes away from the end. We're gonna get this. But I stayed in there and I got the last code and everything. But it was very interesting. It was very interesting to listen to. So I suggest everybody try to sign in, and this may help answer some of these questions we have here too.
Can I say one more thing, Mayor?
Sure.
On page 32, Mr. Tarver and I agree that he will remove those names.
Hold on, let me get to page 30.
Yeah, we actually had the names of individuals in there as they were there, and they should not be, the position should be there, not the names.
Not the names, yeah.
Because the positions change, I'm sorry, the positions- the names
People
change, but
change.
the positions remain the same
That's correct.
for the most part. So that was one of the things that Councilman really pointed out to me. I thought it has to be changed.
Yeah, right.
Okay, anything else? All right. Thank you, everyone, for your input. Moving on to financial disclosure statement filing.
Just a reminder
Thank you.
to please file by April 30th. It'll take you maybe 5 minutes, especially for those of you who have been here for the last year or two. You're already registered and set out.
Even though you sent out a couple emails, would you mind sending
I
out a
will
reminder email?
send, I most certainly will.
I know we need a pin, is it on
No, if you need your pen, I'll email it to you separately. Okay. The financial disclosure statement filing, I sent everyone, including employees and elected officials, the local finance notice with the instructions. There's also a webinar on the website that gives you a brief tutorial on filing, and it's really easy. Click, 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 enter some information regarding yourself and your employer, but it is required by the Ethics Commission. If you fail to do so, they will or can fine you.
Like $100. don't it?
I think it starts at like 3.
300?
I think so. And maybe more, I'm not
$300
sure.
fine, everyone. Can you send anybody, send everyone their PIN numbers? Just
Just
just because.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to departmental budgets.
I put this one on here, but Miss Debbie, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you explain to Mr. Ladd what you told us about what Hedgertown does, the stipend that they give you for the budget?
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out what Hedgertown is doing. So every quarter she gets, they sit down with their people first of all and work out a budget. If she puts in her wish list or whatever else, she knows what her budget is going in. So every quarter she gets a stipend. She pays all her bills from that stipend. Her electric bill, her fuel bill, whatever bill she has, she pays out of that stipend. So she had to go out and basically make up her own accounts. Instead of me using the Pennsylvania Borough, she had to get her own account in their name. But then they get this stipend, she pays everything that way. So that way, bills don't get delayed in payment unless she didn't have money to pay, of course. But, and then if she has something catastrophic, like they had an ambulance, the whole rear of it went, then they had to go back in and get some extra money to give to her so she could have that repaired. So I don't know, it's a good thing, but a bad thing, because in me, yes, I would get my bills paid quickly and all that, and I wouldn't have any of those problems, but I would have to set up my own accounts. And I am not a 501c3. I would have to go and get an accountant and do all those kinds of things.
That's almost like, sounds like a little litigation between the municipality. I never heard anything.
They do it, the fire department, everything.
Sure.
Yep. And they're,
So they're calling it a stipend, but they're actually, it's made to, what, the captain?
right, they have their, like, she has 2 accounts. One's their ambulance, regular money account, and then they have a account for the bill. But, their CFOs, they're very strict on everything. Like they even do their own, they have a road department, so they do their own oil change. They're now making her pay for her own oil instead of, them just supplying oil for oil change. So they kind of went a little bit overboard with it. I don't know if there's a happy medium somewhere in there. I don't know what the rules are with, you know.
Yeah, I would have to check on the county. on
Is that a model that you want to move towards? Is that what?
I would like some of it that I could just pay the simple bills. You
Yeah.
know, but
Who's this?
everything.
And the
But-
reason I brought it up is because of what she said, I'm not gonna say about
Some of them
one
are
bill
reoccurring
that was
bills.
paid, that should have been paid, that was really terrible.
Like I have one right now from November. It's 18. I haven't been paid. I just gave a hard copy today back to the treasurer's office. I don't know what the holdup is on that. I don't know. I don't know the process. I'm used to paying my bills and I have to pay them. So,
I would have to look and see, because sometimes you do have the checks and the vendors just never sign the voucher. And you can hold the checks for, you would have to go back to the vouchers and just make sure, and sometimes you just forget about it, you're moving on. So when you send multiple vouchers and not getting it back, the checks are similar. So I have to check and see what vendor.
I mean, maybe there's a different way to do checks and vouchers that will come back to me and say, hey, you know, Team Life didn't get back to us.
And that's one of them,
They did.
Team Life is one of them that takes multiple times just to get a signature back.
That's not the one with
So
the
that's-
oxygen.
So that's 80. I mean, that's something I can help with. if
Okay,
I knew about it.
yeah.
So maybe just. look
Because like
at-
you said, and like I say, you know, we'll have there. And okay, you said another email, then when that's put aside in the voucher, you don't think about checking that check, but now you're moving on to another couple months
So
down
you
the
used to
road.
get, like, I would sign that, PO,
Yeah, yeah,
and I would get the yellow copy, so then I knew it was progressing.
okay.
We don't, I get that, we haven't for a couple of years now.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you, we'll get that all straightened
All
out.
right,
Because if I'm having trouble, maybe you get them.
yeah,
sooner, you
I'd
know?
be glad to help you, honestly, I know you
Yeah.
got a lot going on.
And maybe any
Because we
outstanding
do a lot of
bills
our
that
stuff
you,
is through email, and it saves a lot of time.
Right.
You know, you attach the PO and send it, and you just wait for the signature back. And then if you look on the computer, I'll probably have close to 100 folders, and so does Erica. So, you know, you send it, if I'm doing it, or if she's doing it, you send it out, it comes back, it goes right into that folder, you see pop in, and you can progress it. So, yeah, I'll talk to you, we'll get something sent out. Now, I'll tell the ones that I know we have problems with.
and maybe like when you have, you know, outstanding bills, you can send an email and a subject line say, pay bill now or outstanding bill.
Well, the one that she's talking about, I never see that one.
Okay.
So I didn't know about that.
So the reason I wanted her to say it, because I was trying to find a different way for us to be able to manage our money. Rich, you have to chime in here with me. So, because like the police department be waiting on stuff. And if we have the money in there, we shouldn't be 4, 5, 6 months waiting to order stuff. If the money's there. Now that doesn't come from your fault, but if they had more control of their money, then they could order what they need. You know, if I look at my savings account and I got $5,000 and I want to order something, 3,000, I go ahead and order it. I don't have to go call somebody, oh, can I order this? It's already there. So I was trying to hoping we could do something like that.
Well, we're gonna.
The difficulty with some of that,
That's the
you have to
purchasing
understand,
time.
well, you have to see, the procurement laws in the state of New Jersey that people have not been following for years and years. And what we're trying to do now, we're trying to set up the policies and procedures so that they match up with the state purchasing laws. And that can be difficult sometimes. It can be cumbersome sometimes. That doesn't mean we can't do some of the things that you're talking about. Doesn't mean that at all.
Well, just
But
like
you have to have very well-honed procedures that make it very clear of how money's being spent, where it's being spent, under what authority and what amounts. Because all of that
I don't
is really,
overspend my budget, I can tell you that
Yeah.
right now. And they came to me, Sean did, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and showed me that I was almost $3,500 under my budget last year. If I'd known that, I would bought a new blood pressure machine.
Well, what we're gonna do,
$2,000.
what we also, and
need one.
what we're also gonna do also is, you know, through our accounting software, is we have a module that we just haven't had time to implement for all departments. That has to be loaded in the computer. So what it is it actually generates a PO and has steps. It will go to my office and it will go to administrator. So you get a copy of your budget, you can look at, okay, what line item is, then you can press something, right? So it's internally, it's gonna be generated from you, which you have a record. Go to my office, I look at the funds, it's okay, the insurance, and we can order. But for the all site departments, you and the fire department have to look into Edmonds, because right, everything out is based on a server in my office. So obviously you're not connected to it. Everybody else is connected, can be connected to it. So I'm gonna look for Edmonds for a cloud-based system. That's one of the things I have to look at. That way, with the all-site departments, for the fire and ambulance, they'll be able to have access to the Edmonds system for their department. So we can upload that requisition module with the train on that for all the departments. So when they order something, they're generated, and it can't be ordered once it gets, then it automatically goes to us with the emails, it goes to Sean, I believe, the administrator, everything signed off, you have the document, you can order it. So, but it's just the time to get that done. I mean, we got the training, now it's just the next step looking at the penalties for all site departments.
So is that solving Rich's problem of getting something ordered?
Yeah, I mean, it would solve it, yeah, because now, once you get okay, then you can order it.
Who
And
needs to-
it actually helps us out, because once, for right now, when items are ordered, then either the ordinate or we'll order it for them, right? Now they know what vendor they want, right? They're able to put that in a requisition, which will free up some time on our officers we need, because now they come to me, I can look over everything, it's okay, Sean's okay, that be ordered, we're good, and she has a record and everything can be ordered.
I use a system like that at
Yeah,
work.
and same with the police department.
When you order stuff, it goes to the
Yes.
supervisor to approve.
Yes.
Who do we need to
And with
implement that?
We're better following the encumbrance, the statutory encumbrance system.
Who would implement that? Would that be Green Tech? Would that be?
No, it's Edmonds.
Edmonds would-
I already had
Edmonds
the module was already put on.
Uh-huh.
We already had the module, but see, now it has to be downloaded to other departments. But now I have to look into the cloud-based server as opposed to our server. Because like I said, the ambulance and the fire department don't have access to it now because of that in this building. So they can't be connected to our server. So that's where
So
something.
can they come to this building and just do it?
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Do you have a Penns Grove email address? That email address should be, that means that she should be on our domain. Even if she's not in the building.
I don't know.
But Evans is a state system.
Yeah, Evans is
Very
a system that's on our server. So they would have to have a line from their computer to our server.
Making it complicated if they would just come here and work on it.
Just call Rich and tell him.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, maybe Debbie's at one time she can do it. I mean, for her, because she's doing a lot of runs and stuff. I'm just convenient for everybody that helps everybody.
Maybe we can get a mobile app.
But what I'll do is I'll look at Evans, I'll present it to council, the governance committee, said this is what it would be for, now how much it would cost for cloud-based. That way you would have all the departments in it. And it's probably gonna be better too, with cloud-based as opposed to our server. I mean, our server's been running great, but you just never know when you have an issue with the server.
So what I'd like to see for my department is I'd like to see my budget.
Okay.
And I'd like to also be able to see the purchase order. I mean, it used to be that each department head would sign off on the purchase order. So
Right.
you could see how it was hitting against your budget.
Right.
I'm thinking right now it's all centralized.
Yeah, you can see everything. I can,
But-
access, you get like a detail, like a transaction listing. So you would actually see the PO and what the vendor was.
Right, I'd like to see the PO before it went in,
Okay.
actually, because what if I get the PO and I said, why is this coming against my budget?
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
you see what I'm saying? I'd like to have control over the budget to the point that I'm saying, yes, this is mine, no, this is not mine.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, no, this is police, this isn't street department, this
Right.
is, yeah.
But we've pretty much determined what, unless it's just a input, but I understand what you're saying, determine what items go against what the line.
I think that what you would have in that line is you would have a control before you get to your control.
But then-
We have to be somewhat careful,
Yeah.
because what I don't want to happen, and what we can't have happen is something that equates to council being involved in the day-to-day operations of the budgetary procedures. So I think there's a happy medium.
Council is signing off on the POs anyway.
They are signing off on
But
them,
it's not
but
in
in
the
terms of,
department head.
no, I understand, but in terms of those decisions, there is a way to do that. We just have to kind of just make sure that there's a way to do it. There's no question about that. We just have to be careful how we set it.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. Okay.
Definitely a way to do it.
Any other questions or comments about departmental budgets?
And I just want to, one more thing, I know, I'm sorry, I will have budgets for all council, so we'll start email, I'll start emailing the office, start emailing the budget, you know, just like the detailed budget. So we kind of have an update on everything right now. That's something we discussed, but. I put
And then we
everything-
want to analyze that bill that we got from Congress.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I say, even with that building, because we got the new rates for the local service, but I don't think it was been approved by council yet. So with this bill night,
Just
I
came
did
through
for
today,
the
right?
report was based on last year's rate. I didn't, okay, so. I need to make sure.
We're gonna have to dig into that. They came and did the drains in front of my house today. I think the days are the same.
Big fascination of the sign out there, right?
They're making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Slamming doors extra hard. All right, moving to communication with Blackboard.
Mayor, can we go to the noise ordinance first, since his is going to be 15 minutes?
Yes.
The noise ordinance, it's nothing new. I know Mr. Tarver is going to tell me I can't say it, and just say it.
You gonna cuss? Or what?
I feel my grandkids today, I may say anything. We got to do something with the noise ordinance. They need to follow it. They know it. Because I got a call the other night. Oh, jeez.
Let me just say this, so just, you know, there's nothing wrong with the noise ordinance. It's probably the noise enforcement of the ordinance.
Yeah, that too.
So
But does it
anything
say-
that you want to take care of with regard to noise that comes from an establishment or a moving car or a house that's playing music too loud, that's already covered by the ordinance. That can be taken care of. So really, if it's not being taken care of, and it's one of those things that I described, that's probably an enforcement issue that we need to strategize with and make sure that that gets done.
But it doesn't have a time that they need to stop their noise by, or, because the other day, it was 11:30. It was 11:30.
What day was that?
I don't look
It was
on my
probably
phone.
last Saturday. It was probably last Saturday.
Yeah, because whatever day was Mike Paulo's birthday.
Not to mention the parking. I had to calculate the right.
It was, I know it was 11:30 at
The
night.
parking in front
And I
of
did
the
end up
restaurant.
talking to Schultz, and he went around there and they were just bringing it down then. So, and one thing I don't understand, maybe it's me, if we sit in here, how do you talk to the person next to you with all that music that loud anyway, first of all? And then why do we need to hear it at the river? You know, and sometime I think 10 o'clock, you need to turn it down or turn it off. You know, at least turn it down.
Well, we will have to figure out something, because if we all want to develop Main Street and make it this developed place with shops and restaurants and all that stuff, we need to figure that out now, because we're gonna have that issue later.
Very loud,
So
very loud.
There's two sections for noise in the code. One is at 3:15, I believe. The other is at 4:50. The 4:50 section does give a time period between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Problem with that is that's also associated and connected to decibel levels. I've discussed with Mr. Rivera before what we need to do in terms of bringing on an operator that can actually, assist us with the decibel readings. That's a specialized skill. Someone has to go to school for that, be certified by the state in order to be able to do that. But the fact of the matter is, even in what we have. If it is unreasonable noise and noise that offends a reasonable person, unreasonable hours or reasonable hours, that's something that's actionable right now. And quite frankly, I don't want to get too much into the subject that you're talking about because there's already some strategy involved in trying to make sure that everyone is comfortable with noise that comes from all of those establishments. So that's something that's.
Why they don't have the sound muffled curtains.
Or the barriers, right? The sound.
Well, if you put the barrier up, it's going to send it somewhere else.
Establishments will have to do what has to be done in order to be in compliance with noise laws. And I'll try to leave it at that. They will have to, going forward, they're going to have to do what they have to do to be in compliance with noise ordinance.
Because the barrier, Mayor, is going to send it somewhere else. It's just gonna, the sound barriers they put up alongside the road. Hey, I was working, I was making money. When they put them up, the people further out start complaining because the noise just went further out to them. So that gonna stop this section, but down somewhere else is gonna hear it.
Just turn it down.
Just turn it down. And Mr. Tarver, I know they told me that some years ago. My son and his friend was in the backyard playing drums and they come over to the house and I said, what's wrong? It was in the afternoon. They said somebody complained about the noise. And I said, so what's the noise ordinance? And the officer just looked at me and gave me no answer. But he said it was a nuisance to somebody else. And I said, okay. So I told him to turn it down some. But I don't understand why 2-3 years later, I'm sorry, I'll take that back. I do understand. I just went to my head. Enforcement. So we need to start enforcing because sometimes I go to bed before 11:30 and I don't make phone calls at 11:30 at night on weekends. But you know, what am I supposed to tell these people when you can hear it and you can hear the words just as plain as day? And it shouldn't be.
A lot of that too is their live entertainment and it's outside. I'm not making an excuse for it, I'm just saying, so you say turn it down, like you turn down their mics or
The band can turn it down some of the band can bring it down.
That's probably what we will probably need to do is have a discussion on any specific properties in some other form. But just in the general sense, I think it's important for us to make it very clear to everyone who's out there, whether they're commercial, residential, private, or public, that they have to be within the bounds of the noise ordinance, and they can't be in a position of disturbing other people. And that's one of the things that I know Mr. Rivera was strategizing with me over this winter, because we kind of had an expectation that as we're coming up into this season, there may be a situation.
We've had 0 complaints all winter, and it's simply because of what you said, it's outdoors. And now it's gonna. I can hear everyone's house here sitting up here, probably. So.
Is that mine?
I can hear it very,
You're
very
right there.
clearly. Yes.
Carries to the river.
By 11 o'clock,
Carries
shut up,
over
that's
the
when I'm going to bed. So that's 11 o'clock.
Well, I figured 10:30, if you tell them 10:30, they'd probably be done by 11.
Right.
Just turn it down.
All right. All right, everyone, moving on to the next item. Hiring for housing inspectors.
Oh, I put that on there, just to keep getting on everybody's nerves. I said, I put that on there just to get on everybody's nerves. So I can keep reminding them, we need these housing inspectors. I rode through town the other day. Anyway, but I showed the mayor the picture the other day. Somebody sent me a text of
That was
somebody
ridiculous.
that had trash out on the sidewalk that had been there for 2 weeks. When I say
In front of their
sweet
house.
potatoes, you could actually see the sweet potatoes that the trash bag bus and the bag, the box, and they were, I mean, it must have been about 20 of them, something like that laying there.
It was a box from the food giveaway we had.
Well, how grateful.
And they
was
just
that?
left it
How
there.
Grateful.
And somebody called me about it and they said it had been there for a couple of weeks. And, you know, when we start making these landlords be responsible and show up to these properties, then we won't have this. So I did talk to the people. I was safe. I talked to them from the car. I pulled up the driveway and I blew the horn and I told them who I was. And I said, we getting complaints. By the time I rode down the street and come back, you know, they picked it up. They picked it up and cleaned it up like it wasn't even there. So all you had to do was tell them. You know, and I told them they needed a trash can too, which I did. I was gonna be nice and buying one, but
Was
I
it-
couldn't find a lid.
Never mind. I'll ask you later.
Yes, you know, we gotta get these inspectors in, because then when the landlords know they're coming, they're gonna get things cleaned up. They're gonna show up more to their house, or I think in the ordinance, you can suspend their license or do something with it if they don't comply with it. And right now they want that money. They don't want to lose that money. So I put that in there just to keep get my nose in there.
Okay.
Now we can do the
Communication with Black.
Yeah, communication with Blackboard is one of the companies that will help us better communicate with the town. The mayor, when we first got in, one of the things the monitor asked her and was, she talking about communicating with the community so they would know what's going on. And this is something that he told us that they did in their town so that people would know what's going on. Because now I've been working with Mandy, trying to do the rabies clinic, which I figure out how to get this stuff out to people. Anyway, we figured something out. But with this thing, it will go anyway, whether it's a house phone, cell phone, email, Twitter, anything. But the guy is on there today that's going to give you a presentation on what we can do with it. His name is Cordair.
Good afternoon, council. How you guys doing? Thank you so much for welcoming me to the call today.
Let me get him.
Hold on 1 second, sir.
No problem.
Okay. Sir?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much, council members and everyone for joining the call, for letting me join the session today. Just as Carol mentioned, this solution can be sent for multiple contacts, up to 10 different contacts per household, 4 different email addresses per household, 10 different phone numbers, 4 different text message numbers. These messages can go through phone, email, text, social media, RSS, and CAP feed. So RSS feed can update your websites, can update any digital signage around the borough. And in the future, if you guys do get that mobile application, we can send those push notifications to the mobile phones as well. This is a tool that the entire borough can leverage, every single department, for the fire company, police department, to the accounts receivable departments, and even the council members today as well. It's not only for the trash pickup or other regular communications you want to communicate. Any other campaigns can be communicated in this platform, and it can really be separated for different departments. I don't know how in depth of a demo you guys would like to go into today. I can talk about some data sheets, or I can show you the platform itself. Any particular preferences that the team would like to look into?
Data sheet.
Data sheet's great. So let me share some screens over here and let's rock and roll. Sharon, is there where you can create?
There you go.
Thank you. Do you need to stop sharing for me to share, Sharon, or?
There you go.
Awesome. Great. If you can see my screen right here, this is a quick data sheet of Blackboard Connect. So as I mentioned, Blackboard Connect is hosted on AWS. We can send over 3.2 million phone calls in an hour, over 2 million emails an hour, and over 3 million text messages an hour. So handling 2,000 households, not a big issue for us. We can send that message within seconds. So it's really a value add for all the different departments, not only the task in hand that's in hand today. So there's all the modalities we can send that mode out to. So you have phone call, TTY capability for accessibility. Your Twitter, Facebook accounts can be all updated as well. And then also we have NOAA weather alerts. So if you want to be ahead of the curve before any storms come through, we can automatically send those notifications out to your citizens, especially if you have citizens around the water bank area that's kind of prone to flooding. You can set those templates up and send it out to the residents right away. We also have iPause capability for any public notifications like Amber Alerts or Silver Alerts if the police department is certified to send those messages out. As I mentioned, the reliability being on a SaaS environment, it's 99.99 uptime, and you'll be able to have that accessibility, the reliability of the tool, and also ease of use in sending a message out. This is a quick layout of how the message platform kind of looks like right now. You'll have your announcements section here, your support that's available 24/7, 365. You have a quick dashboard as well. We can jump into the tool if you would like for me to show you the layout of the product, and also if we want to send out a quick test message. But this is a quick data sheet that I already shared with the team, so you guys definitely can look into this as well. So if you want, maybe I can jump into the product itself to show you how the aesthetics of it looks like in sending a quick message. All right, can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is the welcome screen that your entire team will come into. And we can really give role-based access to all your team members that have access into it. It's unlimited utilization. You're not capped at how many messages you could send or how many admins you can have. But let's jump into the key differentiators within this product. I touch base in different departments can have a stakeholder. So how we tackle that here at Blackboard Connect is by having multiple sites and levels. So we recommend level 1 to being just for emergency traffic or public works or trash pickup kind of emergency notifications. Keep that under level 1. Then we like to have level 2 for your other departments that might have a stakeholder, like your council members here, your police department, your fire company, your public works department. They can have their own stakeholder within the tool. So if I go on to level 1, and again, you can have multiple levels, and under each level, you can have multiple sites. So Office 1 is a per site, and you can name it Public Works, for example. If I click on that Public Works site, you can see everything is freshed here, which means that we provide a brand new slate for this department. They can have their own data uploaded here. They can create their own groups. They can create their own templates to send a message out. They can have their own admin portals, so which you can publicize on your websites for citizens to go and sign up for these notifications if you don't have them already part of the platform, or you can have these public portals pasted on your general website for your citizens to go and sign up for these groups that you want to create as well. When creating a message, very simple, you have 3 different message options within the Connect site. So again, if this is branded for Public Works, if they want to send an emergency message out, they could. They can also send an outreach message out. The team can also send a phone survey out. Phone survey is 5 different questions. You can have 10 different questions, 5 different answer options. So you're implementing a new policy, you want to put in that a noise policy in, and you want to get a verbiage from the general public, and if you want to vote into that, just get their opinion, you can send a call survey out to all the citizens and get their opinion, and they can respond back. Again, 10 different questions, 5 different answer options. It is only by phone, so you have to call in and record your personal voice to capture those questions. We also have other message options, which is emergency and outreach. The key differentiator from emergency to outreach is network priority on our end and on the carrier's end. It also bypasses opt-in, opt-out clauses. So let's say one of your other departments like Parks and Recs or other departments, you started utilizing the tool a lot and people started opting out. But that doesn't mean if you send an emergency message, they don't get that message delivered. So they cannot opt out of emergency messages. So again, network priority on our end and the carrier's end, we get you cannot bypass opt-in, opt-out clause. And the last thing is we provide a dedicated short code number for outreach and emergency campaigns. What does that mean, council team members? That means we give you a designated 6-digit phone number, a 6-digit short code that you can post in your city, in your borough, or your citizens can save that text message number saying the emergency number from the borough. So any text messages that come up will always come on, but under that consistent phone number. So they can always go back and read, oh, last time we had evacuation notices, they told us to take Route 30, not 28. So just examples that we provide. Again, to recap, network priority, you cannot bypass emergency messages and a unique short code for that emergency campaign versus outreach. But the layout is very simple. If you can send an email, you can send a connect message. Can come in here, put in a quick title. I can come in and say all, bring in all my contacts automatically. We provide translation services as well. Let me jump into level 1 because I have more modalities activated there. So you can see the layout. Let me just jump into an outreach message here. Just come in here and say, welcome to Blackboard Connect. I'm just typing all. As soon as I type in all my contacts come in. We have translation services. If you have other community members that need other languages, they can definitely self-subscribe to those languages through the portal, so you don't make any assumptions. And as long as you click on the translate all, your English message down below here will automatically translate it to the other languages listed here. We also have a mapping tools. If you want to set a quick communication map to the, if you want to reach out to a specific geographic region, especially if you have a water main break or a trash pickup delay for a particular street, I can bring in exactly to the region that you want to communicate to and communicate to the street level. So again, I can zoom in and zoom out to a particular street level and communicate with the residents if you need to. So especially if you have high flood zone areas, I can really isolate this location and communicate to a particular region. If I need to zoom into a particular street and communicate only to a street, I could do that as well. So it's very powerful in that regards. We also provide white page data. So we understand, it's like having a Ferrari, but if you don't have the right track or the field, your car is not going to run at the ultimate speed, right? So with us, we provide white page data for your borough. So for your geographic region, we'll preload the white page data. So if you do have a God forbid, an emergency scenario or an outreach communication, you can leverage that white page data even if you don't have contacts already in your systems. But we can definitely integrate into many of your ADP or any of your HR systems or any of your public works systems, CRM systems they use to hold that data. We can integrate into that and upload that data. It can be automated, so you don't have to do that manual process. But when it comes to sending a message, it can be very robust. You can do text to speech, you can do your personal voice, or you can do a combination. So you can call in, you can put a text speech saying, hey, this is a message from the mayor, and the mayor can call in here and record a message virtually from anywhere around the world and tee up a message for the citizens or to the team that had a stellar year in 2021, right? Thank everyone for the holidays if they need to. These are also accessible through mobile app, through iOS and Androids. You don't always have to be on the web platform to create these messages or send these messages. You can have a multi-part message and do an outro with another text speech saying, thank you very much for listening. Please keep in touch if you have any questions, right? So depending on your campaign, you can really set up very robust messages. On emails, it can be very robust. It can have hyperlinks, you can have attachments. You can also have, we have some preset templates here as well that if you want to use some sample scripts, if it's a missing citizen or town hall meeting announcement, a water main break, just kind of address those city location and streets, and you can kind of copy that content over. In regards to having two-way messaging is also available. So you can get an acknowledgement, not only did they receive a message, but yes, they will RSVP for an event, or yes, they'll make a payment for that outstanding parking ticket or for a water bill that they might be backdated on payments on. So you can even use it for accounts receivable play, disaster recovery plays with two-way messaging. So this is a quick example how the two-way messaging pops up. On email, there's a hyperlink. On phone, they'll press 1, 2, or 3. and on text message, they can text back this short code. And they can also respond additional. So on email, when they press the hyperlink, there's additional context box. They can share additional comments on top of their response. Same thing for text message. They can text back this unique code and then put a space and go ahead and address anything else they need to in that content. So Twitter, we also provide text messaging. Your team will get 300 characters. And then we also provide Facebook, Twitter, RSS, and CAP feed. So Facebook and Twitter, your borough might have multiple Facebook and Twitter accounts. If so, we can manage multiple of them very easily under the recipient section right here, and upload those accounts for your Facebook and social media accounts. As I mentioned, we can support other departments on the sites and levels, so you can easily go under those sites and levels and update those specific departments' Facebook and Twitter accounts to be posted if you needed to communicate with those channels. It's a quick overview of different messages. We have, a quick look at, yeah. Let's go for it.
We have to bring this to a close.
Okay.
We have other items on the agenda. I'm sorry.
No problem. Do you guys have any questions, Mayor, in regards to conversation on the utilization of the use case or cost or any of the contracting questions?
Any questions that I have, we can ask outside the meeting, but I think it's a great application. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. All of us are. So we can schedule some time outside of this meeting to ask our questions.
Definitely. Thank you so much for everyone's time, and look forward welcoming your team to our family in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia.
Take care.
Okay. Did you hear that?
No, it's too low. My statement was, can we consider a motion for executive session to consider a resolution authorizing settlement of tax appeal litigation, the underlying facts of that prior to considering the add-on resolution, which is 20-22-4-74. That way we'll be able to discuss that matter in executive session as we should, since it involves litigation. So we would need a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing that particular item.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Remove.
Second.
I'm sorry. Did you catch that, Sharon?
No, I didn't.
Who made the
I'm
motion?
sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
And
Yep.
closed session. So this is going to be resolution 2022-4-70. Four.
Can you do roll call, please?
I wanted to check the location. Add-on resolution. Okay. I apologize. No, I thought it was a different number.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Councilman Carter? Council President Martin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese? Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley. All affirm, motion passes.
All right, everyone, we're going into executive session. For the purpose of discussing resolution 2022-4-74. And that is a resolution authorizing settlement of tax appeal litigation regarding Salem Daycare versus Pennsboro Borough, Salem County Tax Court docket. So we'd ask everyone to step outside for executive session, and then after executive session, we'll call the public back in for public session. Thank you very much.
15 minutes.
Yeah, about 15 minutes, everybody. Okay, everyone, now we're going into public session.
We're gonna do
Do we have to, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Now, motion to adopt resolution 2022-4-74. Thank you, Councilwoman Worthy. May I have the second? Second. Thank you, Councilwoman Mincy. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Martin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Min. Excuse me, Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
here I come, Councilman. Hold on. Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
thank you. Councilwoman Scarpese,
Yes, and I do have a question for Mr. Ross. Do you know what the term of the repayment?
We gotta finish the vote.
Somewhere down.
Did you call her?
Councilwoman Worley,
Yes.
6 affirm, motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Really was it credit against?
The private, do you know the term of that? How long? it goes on?
a couple of
It's
years?
a small
I'll have to look at the spreadsheet.
Okay. Just look.
Yeah,
If you get it, you can-
Okay.
All right. All right, now we're going into public session. Anyone from the public wish to speak, step up to the mic, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. If you have questions, you get 2 questions, ask your questions, and then wait for an answer.
Scarpese, Railroad Avenue. Earlier, you were discussing, legal, Councilwoman Worley and Mr. Tarver. They were discussing, was it a employee handbook or was it a bylaws?
Personnel policy.
I'm sorry?
Personnel policy.
Personnel policies,
Yes.
okay. Was there anything in your personnel policies that addressed an employee of the borough who says something about the public and is found to be a lie? How can I say that? Deceives the public? I'm not sure how to address that, but is there anything in there that says, that addresses the an employee doing something against the public and it's a lie? In other words,
They're falsely accused?
falsely accused. Perfect. It's falsely accusing. Is there anything in your bylaws that address a council person, a borough employee who acts in that way?
I don't know, but
In other words, if someone says something about someone and you have to prove, and you have proof that they lied, what happens to that employee?
Mr. Tarver can respond.
I'm sorry.
To the extent that.
And what would the punishment be? I'm sorry.
To the extent that any misconduct occurs on the part of a borough employee, all borough employees are subject to discipline under the terms and rules of the disciplinary policy. So to the extent that any of the acts of any employee fit within those parameters of misconduct, they're subject to discipline through the same policy that any other employee is, which is a progressive discipline type policy.
And how would that be addressed? Gruber?
It's addressed, it depends on what it is and where it comes from, but I guess what I'm asking, or what I should ask is, are you talking about something that is internal with regard to individuals who are employees, or are you talking about actions of an employee toward an outside individual?
Exactly.
The second. Okay, so I'll answer the question as to the second portion. That would have to, depending on what you're alleging, if you're alleging, and I don't mean you, but depending on what the person who's bringing that forward is alleging, if they're alleging criminal conduct, then it is a criminal action. If they're alleging civil conduct, then it will be a civil action. I can't really give legal advice with regard to that, but I can only say that with regard to actions of employees, if it impacts or touches upon the person's borough duties, then they're subject to the employee policy. If it doesn't touch upon their duties in the action that's being alleged, then they're not subject to the personnel.
So what you're asking is what would be if a person had a complaint about an employee, what would be the process?
Okay, again, if it is something that touches upon the duties of the employee, then they're subject to the policy.
Then would they
If
contact
it's
the
something,
attorney or the-
if it's something that touches upon something else, we have no jurisdiction over that.
But, so there's no punishment for them saying something about someone else? In other words, if Steve was to.
See, what I can do, I can answer a direct question. I can't
So he
answer a
says something
hypothetical.
about someone and come to find out. It's a what's his?
Well, so Steve says that I'm, let's put it this way, Steve says that I can get from 270 pounds to 230 in 1 week. That's a lot. I don't know that he'd be subject to any type of discipline for that. Again, depending on the nature and circumstance of the actual act, that's where you'd have to assess it. So it's hard to assess something in the hypothetical sense.
I was just wondering if there was any repercussions, whoever started the action itself. In other words, if he got caught lying. He said he saw something, but it wasn't true. And all of a sudden he got caught saying that. What would happen to Steve? Would they fire him?
That's a hypothetical.
Would he be disciplined?
That's a hypothetical.
Disciplined by the borough because he, you know, you have to trust him. If he's lying, how can you trust him?
That's a hypothetical. I mean, for example, if you're lying, you're standing before us and lying right now, what would be the sanction for you? There's 10,000 hypotheticals I could give you, depending on what the lie is about, depending on the nature of the lie. Is it criminal? Is it civil? Is it administrative? Are you serious? Is it defamation? Hold on, is it defamation? Is it, there are so many different things. So I can't give you the answer that I think you're seeking on that. So, but we can't go back and forth with this.
No, I'm just getting
I'm also not in the business of giving legal advice. So this, I can only go so far.
No, it's not the legal. Whatever that you guys would do to an employee who did something against the borough, let's say.
And again,
you don't
depending on the circumstances, you're giving a wide open hypothetical. Depending on the circumstances,
okay,
it varies.
I wish I had a better way of explaining it to you, and it might be better. You might be able to.
Maybe able to talk to me.
I'm not being able to explain it.
Can you hang around after
the meeting?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here down in Seventh Avenue. Just a couple of suggestions for about this, but I have out a arbitrary board, thank you. How about an arbitrary? I mean, you read my mind. If you would set up an arbitrary board for them to go to, that way they would be able to talk to someone who is not politically involved and could do a fair and justifiable job concerning his grievance or the grievance that he's done or not done. And that's one. The other one I have is about the renewal. We're coming into the season again, and I think you all know that there's one particular vehicle who goes around this town, and he'll be back again this year, and he'll be blasting that music all over the place that you can hear for 10 blocks. And he's been cited before. Richard has told me they have given him tickets and so forth and so on. Well, here's my feeling about this. If we can legally do this, you know, if somebody has drugs in their car, you can confiscate the car. Well, this person is causing all this noise from the radio in his car. Why can't we pass it on to confiscate his car? They couldn't.
Well, I think the police would have to pull him over and then find drugs in his car first.
I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about the fact that all the noise that he's causing, and it's been done again and again, and after so many times that you cite him, that you can then take his car. Because this guy will continue to do it as he's done before, and he just takes those tickets and he laughs in your face, and he does it again and again. That's all I'm bringing up. I just feel that there's something should be done, and we should take more drastic action towards people like this who just feel they can be above the law and do what they want.
My only comments is, as I said last year, it isn't just one car that rides around Prince Road. That's my first. Yes, he blasts music, but so does, I can tell you 10 other cars that do the same thing. Is it as loud as his? Possibly not, but loud music is loud music. Secondly, you can't take somebody's car for blasting loud music. Now, increasing the ticket price, that might be something different, but that doesn't come to us also. But as far as taking their car, I highly doubt you can take somebody's car for them blasting music.
That's your opinion, that's not mine.
In my opinion, your opinion also is that one car that's doing it. That's not the truth. It's more, I know, I live right down the street from people that blast Spanish music, and they come right by my house every day. It's not the car you're speaking.
I just mentioned one car.
I understand, but that's the thing. You're mentioning one car, and you're basing this all, just like y'all did last summer, y'all basing this on one specific person when it's not just one specific person who blasts music in Pembroke. If we're going to buckle down on this one person you're talking about.
Let Mr. Tarver address this right now.
I just wanted to address what you were saying. What you're suggesting is akin to a civil forfeiture, which is what they do in a drug case, which is they take the cars as a result of having some sort of activity. That's not possible for us to do through a noise ordinance. I agree with you, however, that realistic enforcement is needed, and there are things that we can do. We can do escalating fines. We can also implore upon and make sure that our courts understand that these are repeat offenders and that they appropriately deal with these individuals, whoever they are. So there is a way of dealing with that. And at some juncture, I can't imagine anyone being able to deal with repeated citations of noise to the extent that they would have to pay repeated significant fines and face significant penalties, the kind that our ordinance demands. So maybe this is an enforcement issue as well. Maybe it's not quite being done the way it should be done. But I think it's done the proper way. Whoever that individual or those individuals are, they will have to recognize that what the cost is for running around this borough with loud music.
However, those citations that I mentioned came right from Richard Rivera.
Mhm.
According to what he said, that they had these things started memory back and getting tickets, and he just continued to do it.
And we need to check with the
Now-
courts and see what's happening with those citations, because
Must not
the
be high
fact of
enough.
the fact of the matter is that those things, there's a real question as to what's happening with them. And I'll look into some of those citations generally, not as any one person, but I'll look into them generally and just see how they're being handled, just so we kind of just have a handle on how they're being done. As you know, the courts are completely separate from us, but we can at least figure out how these things are being disposed of.
Okay, all right, and, I said in the very beginning, when I mentioned about taking his car, I said it was legally possible. I did say it. So, I realize that if it's not possible, as you just suggested, we need to find other means of making sure they stop it. That's all.
Desirable, but not possible.
From experience, after your first noise pollution, yes, the ticket price is going to go up. I used to blast my music. Did I care if I got a ticket? No, I didn't. It's like $100 and some. It's supposed to go up the more tickets you get. Whether they do that or not, apparently not. But
Enforcement issue.
at the end of the day, some people still don't care. To some people, $100 is $5.
Well, by now, this person should be more than that. He should start caring.
Yeah.
So we need to see where
My
he at.
sneakers cost $200. So it's like, me personally, I ain't gonna say I don't care about $100, but a lot of people look at $100 like it's not a lot of money, or that's not gonna make me turn my music down. But it's multiple cars that definitely do this. Some are, yes, very much louder. There's motorcycles that ride around town blasting music. Some are louder than others, so we can't, like I said last summer, if we're gonna pinpoint something, we need to just look on what we should be doing about it, not focusing on specific cars or a specific person saying this guy is doing that, when I can assure you, I live right on Broad Street. It rides by my house every day. She's at the ambulance building. I'm quite sure she sees numerous cars riding by there. It's music, some I can understand, and I'm quite sure it's not coming from his car. And it's some I can understand, which I'm sure is coming from his car. And other people's motorcycles. It's like I said, it's multiple
And it
people that
is
do it.
annoying. It's very annoying. It's annoying.
I deal with it. It's 5 in 3 seconds, and I'm like, he's back. That person's blasting music too. This person's blasting music, but it's like it does have to come down to the police doing something about it being enforced in the courts. Outside of that, it's going to be a whole summer thing. I'm quite sure. All genres, motorcycles, cars, T-Rexes, everything.
Right.
We're going to be doing.
So, Mr. Tarver, you're gonna look.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else from the public?
It's Debbie Ashburn.
Hi, Debbie.
Hey, I have a question. I asked the mayor before about this. Has American Legion approached this borough to meet with you? American Legion ambulance?
Not that I know of. I haven't heard.
Because just this week they had meetings with Alloway, Elsinboro, and some of the other towns on the other side of the county. Basically because they're providing mutual aid for some of these ambulance squads, they want to charge them money. Okay, so one of the things that this person, his name is Chuck McSweeney, who was hired by the county, paying with tax dollars, which none of the rest of the towns get to have any of that kind of expertise. He said to them, well, if you're not going to pay for when we come into your town, then we're not going to provide mutual aid. So the young lady who was the captain of Elsinboro and said, well, if that's the way you're going to be, then whenever we bring our fire trucks into your areas, we're going to have to be paid for that too then. So he didn't know what to say because he didn't expect that kind of response. It's not smart. Because first of all, there's a mutual aid agreement within all the towns. So in my town, my backup is going to be Carney's Point, then it's Peddertown, then it's Pennsville, and then it keeps going from there. And what I want to say is that I do miss some calls. I can't do it all. I really can't. But I am doing so much mutual aid in Carney's Point that if they bring that story here, I want to have something back to say to them. Because I have it up from 2021, out of 944 calls that we actually responded to, 151 were mutual aid calls. So far this year, they're already up. Out of 284 calls as of today, 52 were mutual aid in the Carnes Point. So that's a lot, okay? And whether it's because the hospital is always on divert, Salem Hospital is in trouble, big time trouble, and Spirit cannot get her fast enough. And so the squads are having, I told you that before, we have to travel further and further. So the gas and everything. So if American Legion pulls that card out, I would like to first know they're going to talk to you guys, because I don't want them here. I don't want them here. I don't want their people. They're not that well trained. I don't care. And I don't want them here. I will change my card so that Carnes Point isn't on there if I have to, because their employees are American Legion. Okay.
So if I hear from them, I'll contact you.
Yeah, so I didn't know how they were doing it, because I don't really think they would invite me to their meeting.
Maybe that's why they haven't come here.
Maybe, I know you told them before some things, so I didn't know if they had tried again, because I know that right now Pensgrove was slotted to get a $43,000 bill from them. Yeah, so we can charge them $51,000 for the 51 calls we took in there.
That's right.
That's right.
All right, so they come to you, just like.
I sure will. Thank you, Debbie. All right, anyone else from the public? Okay. Yes, you can.
Friday at 6:45.
Oh, let me close public session. Sorry, public session is now closed.
There's another hands-on CPR class at the District One Community Center. It's just hands-on. You ain't got to put your mouth on nobody. This is just really want to. Red Cross.
Nobody puts their mouth.
Tell them that.
They use dummies though, right?
No.
I went.
Oh, we didn't use a dummy. We had something.
But even in real life, no one puts their mouth on anybody unless it's your blood.
Yeah.
We're not taught that.
So this is hands-on, hands only.
Just hands only, no.
Yeah. Yeah, the Red Cross is doing it. It's only for half an hour.
Yes.
It's only for half an hour. Very interesting.
You can do compression only until someone gets there, and you could save someone's life.
Yeah, that's what they do.
I'll tell you how you work.
Yeah, you're on.
When is it?
Friday at 6:30.
And where is it?
Bishop William Community Center.
That's for-
We had 10 people last time. We get the people trained.
Cross the street.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Haven't done it in a while.
Oh, at the community center?
Yeah.
Thank you. Real quick, we had an Easter egg hunt this past Saturday. We had about probably 20 to 30, maybe 30 kids show up, but it was really nice. We had a nice Easter bunny. Thank you, Councilman Carter. And the kids had a lot of fun. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Recreation Department for putting that together. And thank you to the council members that stopped by and joined in. So thanks, everybody. And that's pretty much it. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everyone, the next meeting, which is May 3rd, 6:30 p.m., same time, same place. Same place.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.